Hi, welcome back to Aetheral Space 16.28, the Duel, Part 1. Hello. Hi.
Well, you sped up as the words went farther ahead. That was crazy.
What do you mean that's the words? We got can you
well,
see
the more
words?
the more you spoke, the faster you went. Unless my computer just lagged and yeah. Anyway, we have a third here. You might have heard. Hello, welcome.
Hello, it's good to be back.
It is good to have you back, especially if we have some more.
We have proof of readership.
I don't know if we do. Who? Oh, is this the Abyssal Knight speaking?
Yep.
Oh dear. I suppose we should jump right
into
it.
What's the first line of the chapter? What do you think?
Do you
Without further ado,
sounds?
Kind of, but it hurts my throaty.
Yeah,
do you want to start wise or should I?
You did one line as if it's lit and then changed the voice immediately, which I think was a good decision for your health.
Facts. Do you want to go first, Wiser, or shall I?
You first, because I actually don't remember how he sounds.
Alright, well, I changed it. It was originally very like this, but that hurt my throat too much. The Abyssal Knight twitched, purple eye bulging out of its distorted socket as it stared at Muzazi. Here, did you not hear, boy? It cocked its head to the other side so wildly it almost looked like its neck was broken. Rush. No. Similar, but different. A sickly sense of humor. Muzazi took a step back, radiance raised defensively as he took a protective step in front of the climber. Cold sweat clung like a cloth to his forehead. He took in a long, freezing breath through his nose. "You're here for her?" he asked, as steadily as he could. The Abyssal Knight twitched again, and beneath what parts of its skin were visible through its ruined armor, Muzazi could see flesh crawling, like hundreds of maggots were squirming within the knight's body. He held back nausea. Right now, he couldn't afford to let his focus waver for a moment. It had been nearly 3 years since Nocturnus. 3 years since the Abyssal Knight had demonstrated just how powerless he'd been in the face of true, monstrous strength. 3 years. But right now, it felt like 3 seconds. The pressure hadn't changed at all. Every movement this thing made, every breath it took, held the promise of instant death. It spoke again. Whether it was answering his question or just talking to himself, Muzazi couldn't truly say. "Recover asset, eliminate obstacles. Don't look at me. Don't look at me!" With those final words, the knight's head began to thrash this way and that wildly, even as the rest of its body remained as still as a statue. Wordless howls and screams echoed through the chamber. This thing's consciousness was clearly as unstable as ever, wavering the line between man and beast. It was hard to believe who the Abyssal Knight once was. Samson Rhodes, one of the most respected warriors of the Supremacy had ever produced, known for his nobility and swordsmanship. Now he was one of the Supremacy's most dangerous enemies. No, he was an enemy to all living things, a servant of Darkstar. Darkstar. Muzazi's gaze flicked back to Aklima. The knight had said it was to recover an asset. Her? Did Darkstar bring her here, then? Were they the ones who had gotten her off Azumha? Was she being used as their pawn, too? Ator Muzazi worked out quite a few important things in that moment, but at the same time he'd forgotten one very, very important thing. He couldn't afford to let his focus waver for a moment. The Abyssal Knight screamed as it rushed forth, half of the room destroyed by the force with which it kicked off the floor. Muzazi raised his radiance to block, "No, I'll die," before ignoring desperate thrusters to throw himself off to the side instead like a ragdoll. He did the same for Aklima, getting her out of the danger zone and flinging her off into the corridor. Rolling to a halt, Muzazi leapt up and felt the Abyssal Knight's hand seize hold of his neck. A second of panic was all he was permitted. The knight slammed Muzazi against the clear floor, shattering it and sending the two of them hurtling down below towards the Cold Harvest reactor. I'm dead, the thought accompanying Muzazi's heartbeat as he fell towards the massive, spinning installation below. The observation room upstairs had been massive, but the actual reactor core was even more so. In this cavernous space, both Muzazi and the knight seemed like the tiniest of dots, the light of their aether barely even visible compared to that of the frozen star. I'm imagining the cinematic shot where it's pulled all the way back and the glass shatters and then it's the background. Yeah!
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, that's so cool. I'm dead, I'm dead, I'm dead. No! So long as he was thinking he was alive, so long as he was alive, he could win. The knight's grip had loosened just the tiniest bit, and with an explosive thruster, Musashi managed to slip free, flying back as quickly as he could to put some distance between himself and his enemy. Crash! The Abyssal Knight landed, gaze still fixed on Musashi, touching down right next to the rotating reactor. The blue light turned the hunched, hulking figure into a silhouette, but Musashi could still tell that it was locked onto him like a heat-seeking missile. Slowly, Musashi touched down too, massaging his bruised neck with a hand. That had been too close. If the knight got its hands on him again, Musashi knew he wouldn't survive. Aklayama was still in the hallway, still safe. Musashi could feel her location through the inactive thrusters he'd left on her. If the Abyssal Knight was after her, then Musashi had to keep its focus on him instead. There was nothing else to consider. But was this really a fight that Musashi could even win? He'd become far stronger since their last encounter on Nocturnus, true, but was that enough? The knight's power seemed to go beyond what was reasonable. Was there a secret to it? Something Musashi could exploit, perhaps? He let out a shaking breath, and then stopped as he saw that breath leave his mouth as a white mist. Indeed, this place really was cold, wasn't it? Atoy Musashi took a step forward. "Samson Rhodes!" he called out, with more confidence than he felt. The Abyssal Knight cocked its head like a dog. "If you still recognize that name," Musashi said grimly, "and if you still consider yourself a knight, then listen to my words. I, Atoy Musashi, challenge you to a duel. Honor demands you acquiesce." For a moment there was silence, and then a horrible, warped, gurgling noise. It trickled through the room, audible even over the whirling of the reactor, infiltrating everything. It took a few seconds for Musashi to identify it. The Abyssal Knight was laughing. "Honor," it chuckled. "Honor, honor. I remember you now, boy, I remember you. From the snow, wink, wink, I remember you." Musashi took another deep breath and let out another puff of cold mist. Resolve in his eyes, he held out his radiance. "See if I match your memory, then," he declared. "Full throttle!" Musashi's body flared into light. The danger of using his thrusters inside his body came from the risk of overheating. If he pushed his body too far, he'd lose consciousness, and his defeat would be assured. That was why he could only use overdrive in short bursts. Full throttle, overdrive! Musashi's body burst into light. During his battle against Dragon Hadrian, he'd gotten around the overheating problem by using the rain as a makeshift coolant. Even then, it had been a limited measure, slowing down the overheating but not completely stopping it. Water could only do so much after all. But right now, frozen water pelted at his face. But right now, his breath emerged as mist. He's using CPU cooling, that's crazy. But right now, he was standing next to a singularity of ice. He wouldn't find any better coolant in the world. Full throttle, red line! Atoy Musashi's body exploded into light, and he vanished. The Abyssal Knight twitched. With the first attack, Musashi was just getting used to his speed. Firing himself like an invisible bullet, he struck the Abyssal Knight in the side of the head with a dropkick of divine proportions. The knight did not fall. Its stance was nigh unbreakable, but as its head jerked off to the side, Musashi heard an unmistakable gasp of pain. If it can feel pain, then it can lose. If it can lose, then I can win. The knight lashed out with a hand to grab Musashi, but the swordsman was already gone, moving with such swiftness that he seemed to be teleporting. Nausea beat its fists against the back of Musashi's skull as he moved. Me playing Alan Wake. Right now the world was an indistinct blur, a smear against his vision. In time he'd perhaps grow used to this speed, but for right now all he could manage were the most simple lines of attack. Attack, a strike to the arm. Attack, a strike to the leg. Attack, a strike to the chest. After each lightning-fast strike, Musashi retreated just as fast to avoid the Abyssal Knight's retaliation. He was no fool. Speed barely gave him a fighting chance here. If the knight was able to get one good blow in, it could very well be the end. Hit and run was the only path to victory. Attack, attack, attack! Black blood sprayed across the ground. Not much, but proof of injury. This was a fight that Musashi could win. The Abyssal Knight was a man, not a monolith. He could fall. He would fall. Attack, attack, attack! Sodom, the Abyssal Knight said. Seal of observation. It reached out and snatched Musashi out of the air. All around him, for around 10 meters or so, floated countless staring eyes, as if space itself had opened their lids to look at him. Should it be had? Or it has?
Okay.
The knight had used this ability on Nocturnus, too. It allowed the Abyssal Knight to keep watch over everything in the affected area. Sneak attacks would be useless. Not that that mattered to Atoy Musashi. He'd already made the one mistake he was allotted, after all. He was in the knight's grip again. He wouldn't live to regret it. This time the knight did not play with its food. Letting out a wordless groan, it raised its massive sword of gnarled metal high, ready to bring it down on the captured Musashi and split him in half. Musashi tried one last-ditch effort, Quantum King! But even as his body became a burning light, the knight's grip did not slacken. If anything, the pain invigorated it. With a scream of fury, the knight brought the blade down. All right, Weiser, it's all you for the foreseeable future.
Unchained. Only, that blade did not reach its destination. As Quantum King faded from his form, Musashi looked up in awe. The sword that had been about to end his life had stopped, right above his head, inches away, as if held in place by an invisible hand. "Don't die like that," a voice behind him grunted. Wait, what is Mariloka's voice?
I don't remember.
He
It was like
too
deep.
much, but he's sort of like this, I guess.
He sounds kind of deep.
He's a gruff guy.
I'm
Don't die like that. No.
But he's like...
It's not like I like you or anything, Musashi.
I would say he's sort of
bugger.
listless as well. There's not much energy when he talks.
Don't die like that, a voice behind him grunted. Despite the terror before him, Musashi dared to look over his shoulder. A stocky, muscular man was floating down from the hole in the ceiling. A man Musashi recognized. Wild dark hair hung like a mane around his head. Stern eyes glared at the enemy before him. Even as he descended in defiance of gravity, he scratched at his chin casually like a caveman. Mariloko. Another, the Abyssal Knight hissed. Mariloko landed on the ground a short distance from Musashi, and with a jab of his finger, unworthy, opened up enough holes in the knight's hand that it looked like a piece of cheese, allowing Musashi to leap back and escape. The knight, for its part, just inspected the lump of bristle at the end of its arm curiously. "I didn't see it. Didn't see it," it mumbled. "What's that?" Mariloko grunted, gaze still fixed on the Abyssal Knight as Musashi landed next to him. Musashi glanced at him. "What are you doing here?" he asked. The last time he'd seen this man, he'd been covering his escape back on Azumha. How had he somehow ended up here? What on earth was happening on Serendipity right now? Helping. Mariloko was as taciturn as ever. He looked at the knight and asked again, "What's that?" Musashi took a deep breath. In a situation like this, he'd take whatever help he could get. "The Abyssal Knight. It's a member of a group called Darkstar. It used to be part of the Supremacy, but he turned against them and... It's the enemy," Mariloko interrupted, already having gotten what he needed. "Fine, let's kill it." Musashi swallowed. "It's not a thing to be taken lightly." "Neither are you," Mariloko said, and for the first time since he'd arrived, he looked directly at Musashi. His voice softened, just a little bit. "You still need to make it kinder, right?" Musashi snorted bitterly. "It's not like I can still become supreme." Mariloko raised an eyebrow. "So?"
New Yaoi ship unlocked? What the hell?
Oh, we've been shipping this one since 13.42.
Let's go.
With that, he turned back towards their mutual opponent, ready to take it on without a second thought. Musashi wasn't far behind, but still, he paused a moment and thought. He'd thought that the path to the kinder world he'd wanted had been sealed off with the end of the Dawn contest. Since then, he felt like he'd been tying off loose ends, picking up scraps of purpose. But it was as Mariloko said. Musashi himself had once thought a sword was nothing but a pen with which to write the future. And a toy Musashi could summon his sword as many times as he needed. The path to a kinder world. It still existed. "Yes," Musashi said, igniting a shining radiant against the darkness. "Let's kill it." The Abyssal Knight took a deep, rattling breath, and the battle kicked off once more. Musashi appeared behind the knight, already slashing his radiance, but the knight whirled right around, sword hurtling through the air, moving on animal instinct. It was frightening to consider, but the sword-wielding beast was already starting to grow used to Redline's speed, even after such a brief time. It would have spelt disaster. unchained, if not for the 200-year-old man. Muzazi's orientation changed, and he fell away from the sword, plummeting towards the far wall like he was falling off a skyscraper. Even if Mariloko hadn't deactivated Unchained, though, Muzazi would have been ready. Using his thrusters, he began to zoom around the perimeter of the room, drawing in closer and closer, radiant, ablaze, and all while leaving a spiral trail of shining swords behind him.
She's so bad as she's
Denied its prey, the Abyssal Knight roared in fury, the sheer sound enough to shake the air around it. Twitching madly, it moved to pursue Muzazi, but Mariloko wasn't about to allow that. The strong man finally lunged in himself, dealing an unchained enhanced punch directly to the Abyssal Knight's chest plate. Clang! The Abyssal Knight's head snapped down to look at Mariloko. Mariloko, for his part, just furrowed his brow at his own fist as if it had somehow malfunctioned. The punch hadn't even made the monster budge, but it had certainly served to snatch away its attention. The sword came down. Mariloko was ready for it. He wasn't exactly slow himself, and Unchained and Technique combined were enough to allow him to dart to the side just in time to avoid the blow. The blow that carved a massive, straight line all the way to the wall behind him. Even if one was able to avoid the sword, they had to worry about the resulting air pressure, too. Muzazi would keep note of that. Oh, it's like a telltale. Muzazi will remember that.
It's a loading screen tip.
Yeah.
After the Abyssal Knight killed him like the 7th time.
Running back to the respawn.
He's like getting annoyed. You have to see the Mariloko cutscene every time.
Oh my, it's like 2 minutes long.
Unskippable.
It was like really touching the first time. But
Yeah, by the end you're like, shut the fuck up, Marilyn.
you can like quote it.
You're gonna make it kinder, right? Yeah, you're gonna make it
It's like that
kinder,
Kingdom
right?
Hearts boss, you know the one?
Yeah.
As the knight turned its head in pursuit of its target, Mariloko took advantage of the opening. His fist, still rippling with manipulated gravity, slammed right into the Abyssal Knight's jaw. This strike at last provoked a real response, an audible snarl of frustration as its body skidded back across the floor. There. Mariloko had bought him the time he needed and created the opportunity he needed. Muzazi's flight came to a sudden halt as he raised his hands into the air, and all of the radiance he'd left in his wake scattered into specks of light and began to coalesce in his hands. The countless eyes of Sodom suddenly focused on him, alert, but before the Abyssal Knight could intercept him, unchained. He was held in place for a single, vital moment. Radiant! Muzazi cried, swinging his collected shine. Almighty! Trapped by crushing gravity, the Abyssal Knight had no choice but to just stand there, as a tidal wave of burning light crashed over its form. What was happening? What was this? Ordinarily, the Abyssal Knight existed in a kind of waking dream, a stupor driven by orders and instincts and half-remembered skill. It swung its sword at phantoms and whispered the words that seemed right. That sleepwalking combat was enough to take care of most opponents it encountered, enough to achieve success in any mission it was given. But this felt different. This felt like the Man of Strings back at Snowy Place. The knight disliked it. Dull pain was radiating throughout its body. Its hand was mangled. When had that happened? A massive attack had just struck it directly. Gravity itself was holding it down. Pain and confusion were pulling consciousness just a tiny bit out of the pit. And that consciousness was not happy about the situation. The Abyssal Knight started trying just a little bit. Oh, forgive me, Master. I must take off my training weights.
It's like, what's going on? I'm in a fight?
All right, I'll give it 2% effort. Head ass.
Leans forward to lock in. It lunged forward suddenly, smoke rising from its charred armor, charging directly at the gravity user. If it removed him, then the boy wouldn't be able to hold it in place again. The gravity user channeled purple aether. He would use his ability to try and dodge once more. That wasn't permissible.
Atma, seal of acceleration.
The Abyssal Knight erected the seal for just a second, just enough time to increase its own speed at the crucial moment. With one hand, it hurled its massive sword up into the air. The gravity user's eyes flicked up reflexively to track the weapon, and in that instant, the knight struck. Its gauntleted fist slammed into the gravity user's chin from below, sending him up flying into the air with a satisfying crack. Most people would have been knocked unconscious by that. No, most people would have been killed by that. However, the enemy was strong. He couldn't be too careful. The knight snatched its greatsword out of the air as it came back down, and bending its arm inhumanly far back, it blocked the flurry of slashes that erupted behind it. A hurricane of strike and deflection. It sighed in fond remembrance of past glories.
Fast,
It wheezed.
but slow. Slow in the head. You lost your chance, boy.
As the boy swung its blade of light once more, the knight allowed the aether in its own sword to die down. And once the light sword sunk into the metal, it infused it once more. For a single fatal moment.
Did he just use Musazi's trick against him that I used like 2 seconds ago against the Klima?
Absolutely.
That's so funny. Karma.
For a single fatal moment, the boy was trapped. For a single fatal moment, fingers slashed like claws. For a single fatal moment, the Abyssal Knight chuckled. And blood sprayed up into the air.
Now, I'm not a big Star Wars guy, but I am curious because my friends are, and they've told me about there's like this secret, unhonorable technique in Star Wars where you turn your lightsaber off for like half a second and turn it back on to get through a block. Is that where you got this from?
Not really. What do you mean? Because he's not...
Well,
it kind of...
I know it's not the exact same, but I was wondering if you were
It's a similar
inspired by that because
principle,
it's... Yeah, where it's sort of like, oh, gotcha.
Doesn't
Let you
Cordelia
sink
do that?
in. Yeah, she does as well. That's Cordelia's whole ability, is just like solidifying and gasifying her weapon, changing the state of it.
Musazi needs to lock in with the
I can't believe all this time
his radiance.
Cordelia designed her entire... She designed her entire identity around a thing that, like, if you're good enough, you can just do. It's fucked up. Fraud ass.
Yeah, I developed a unique Aether ability. When I put Aether in stuff, I can like make it stronger.
I call it... It's like, if you think about it, if you pour Aether into ability, it's kind of like making it like a plus item in D&D.
It's like, but that's infusion. That's what? That's infusion.
It's the guy
It's my ability.
No, it's called level up. The more Aether I put in, the stronger it gets. No, but...
This is
They
literally the guy
don't-
with
they don't
gunpowder
know the
plot back in
basics.
Arc 12.
Yeah?
They don't know the basics.
Alright.
They think that's like they've reached the peak.
No, watch this. I call this capturing. I put it
recording.
inside of my Aether, and then I'm allowed to bring it back out later.
That's
Whoa,
great,
careful.
pal.
Nintendo might try and sue you for patent infringement.
We have some Aether
XK
questions, by
is
the
under
way.
investigation right now. The Guardian entities are too close.
Oh. Alright. Aetheral questions. Where did we leave off on?
I
'Cause
have
I
no
don't
clue.
remember.
Well, actually, maybe if I have a look, I'll have a clue. Hold on.
Oh, hold on. There's some good ones in here. We talked about the skirt one, so I think
Yes.
this is the last one right here. Room asks, what vague fortune cookie style, not future knowledge, piece of advice would each of the Slipstream's crew members give their Arc 1 selves?
Jagan would probably say, "You're not that guy."
Oh. No. You're not him. What about the others?
I don't know. Don't trust reporters, Faroof. Don't trust the press.
Damn.
Don't get too attached.
Well, it's like that. She's going to do that anyway. She can't help that.
Yeah. Yeah, or like, I honestly think Ruth would just send herself back. It's not that deep.
Maybe, actually, that's pretty good advice for Ruth, I think.
Because, like, a lot of her arc is, like, overthinking and torturing herself mentally, and then she's like, but I'm going to live anyway and move forward. So, like, it's not that deep, Ruth. What about Skipper? What would he say?
The thing is, whatever Skipper sent back, he would not listen to it.
That's true. That's a good point. That's really funny, actually. All right.
Unless it was, like, specific, like, useful information he could put into use. In which case he would capitalise on it, but if he got, like, advice, like, you live a happier life, you're like, yeah, fuck off.
Lynn asks, are there any awakenings still around from the Thousand Revs?
Probably in some dark corners of the galaxy, there's, like, some little eldritch horrors roaming about.
Guy who awakened and he's like, I will kill a Gene Tyrant, but they already got him all.
There's no Gene Tyrants left on here forever.
Yeah, he's just around forever.
My Aether Core is vengeance.
My Aether Core is hating genetic engineering. The feeling you get when tearing apart a scientist.
Yeah, there's like an abandoned battlefield, and Aether Awakening is just sort of reanimating corpses and making them fight each other to recreate the war so it can get its vengeance, but it's never quite good enough.
That's extremely sad and cool. That's some shit that would happen in Weird Space. The Endless War.
Maybe. Weird Space is weirder than that, I would think, though. Because that's like
Lan
something I can
also-
explain with Aether.
Lan also asks, secondly, are there any historically famous awakenings?
Probably. I mentioned a few Supremes that came back as an awakening. I don't want to go into specifics right here and now because I want to put more thought into that rather than just like saying some shit right here and now. But I would say yes. I would say if a Supreme does stick around as awakening, traditionally that is sort of kept for after a Dawn contest if one occurred. And it's like, here's your final rite of passage. Kill this thing.
Can I tell you my Weird Space OC phenomena?
Yeah, sure, go.
It's like a wormhole you cross into, and when you go into it, you get to relive your happiest memories. But when you get out of it, those memories are gone forever. You don't have them anymore.
Oh shit! I thought you were gonna say they didn't happen anymore.
No, they still happen, but you don't remember them anymore. Like, they're gone from your head once you've relived them. Like, the wormhole ate them. What do you think?
I like that. I don't know if it would probably be. I don't know if it would necessarily be a wormhole, but I think like a place could do it still, like a little planet.
Yeah, a little planet, a little dwarf planet,
a little big planet.
Another 20 trillion to
again?
the memory eaters.
Hell yeah. Ainsworth asks, the 9x9 rule is quite specific. How did they figure it out?
Trial and error.
I would also assume part of it is like, because they rebelled against the Gene Tyrants, right? They had like Kages as admins. I'm sure being like super scientists, they recorded exactly how far they could stretch their distributed consciousness.
Yeah, and the conscience are usually like in a Gene Tyrant's court. Conscience were pretty high up. They were usually like a personal aide or a second in command, so they would be privy to that sort of stuff usually. And they were like, hey,
Edgar stole the data.
I would say Edgar's not the only conscience, but he would have known that.
Yeah. MT asks, final question, since we only have one chapter this week. MT asks, can Aetheral Awakenings be destroyed without the use of Aether or Neverwire?
Without the use of Aether?
Could you hydraulic press an Aether Awakening?
You could, but if it's still like got its rampaging Aether Core, like if it's Aether Core's rage at being crushed by a hydraulic press, that is not going to solve the problem. You're going to have to negate that emotion basically, and then it'll like stop going. And
Aether Awakenings can also be killed by force, as we saw in Arc 3, though, can't they?
Yes, but that's in a case where either it's so weak that you can like just sort of shock it out of the Aether emotion, or that killing it in such a way that it is taken out of that Aether Core and loses itself.
Slashing it into 9 centimeter by 9 centimeter.
That wouldn't work on an Aether Awakening necessarily.
But it's distributed consciousness with Aether infusion.
That's
with
like
Aether infusion.
Yeah,
it's the Aether doing the thinking.
Exactly, yeah, that's like Aether possessing a thing. Like it's not got consciousness like contained in it at that point. It's being like moved around by Aether.
Aether ability where I pour all my Aether into a homunculus of myself, which allows there to be 2 of me at once. Okay. I guess that's what Pandershi does.
I think
he doesn't use Aether.
He goes like, he went like one step beyond. It's just like he's got a number of himself.
His shadow clone jutsu.
I wouldn't say so.
All right.
They're all genuinely him. It's like there's one Pandershi mind, and he controls them all individually.
Yeah, it's a hive mind, kind of. Yeah.
Yes, it's a hive mind, but like I feel like when
it's not. I
I
know what you're saying. When people say hive mind, it's a lot of minds
think,
connected, but you're saying it's one consciousness stretched
one
over
guy.
many bodies.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's what.
Like,
but that's what a
this
hive mind is.
Stuff. Yeah, I know, but like
Cooler hive of Malkuth.
Oh, that's fair. I see why you're confused now. It's not the hive of Malkuth. Yeah, it's one guy. All right, Weiser, do you have anything you'd like to plug or ask before we close it off?
Actually, just playing off one previous Aether question here. Was the 9x9 rule known to Gene Tyrants before the revolutions?
Yes.
As a limitation?
Yes, it would have been.
I'm sure they tested it on themselves, yeah. They're like, how far can I cut myself off?
Let's say the Revolution's generation of Gene Tyrants, whoever they've been rebooted or come into existence for various reasons during that time, they would have found out from Lord Director Eve.
Whenever a Gene Tyrant
You definitely would have known through trial and error.
When a Gene Tyrant had to be executed, they did the guillotine, but it was like a grid pattern.
Well, executions, like I said, they generally, the idea of killing a Gene Tyrant is a big no-no. So they would, if an execution's like, okay, you need to reboot now and become a different guy.
That's right. They're like, don't have any Gene Tyrant babies, just reboot.
Which is what happened, which is how Elizabeth, Lady of Flies came about. A little bit of lore.
Wow.
I remember that.
Well,
remember when Marie rebooted, but her previous iteration didn't leave any memories to her?
That was basically suicide.
Yeah. It's kind of mean of her, not gonna lie.
It's kind of weird how you assume it was a her.
It was kind of mean of him, not gonna lie.
Yeah, and I think that's it.
That is it. Sorry, that was my last comment. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye!
Bye!